Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday. It is our week 6. I kept saying week 5. We're in week 5 or week 6. It's our mug rug week this week. The weeks are all kind of blurring together for me. So we are doing mug rugs tonight. I'm going to get everyone to pop on. I'm going to get my iPad set up so I can kind of see comments as we go. So we'll get rocking and rolling here shortly. Let's see. There it is. All right. So I'm up there. So this week we're going to do the paw print mug rug. This is a round mug rug. So the only version we have for this is going to be an envelope closure. And I did that on purpose. It seems to be the envelope seems to be kind of the most confusing for people. And with a round envelope or a round mug rug rather, you don't really get a clean finish with a turn version. So we have the one version tonight. So the difference is with an envelope version, like a round one like this, you have kind of a pocket and you can seal this shut. But this is the front. See, it's nice and round. If I can back this camera up a little bit, there we go. It's nice and round all the way around. You don't have like a little flat edge where you turn. Other mug rugs with different shapes, we can do a turn version where it's totally flat on the back. And we have a turning hole that we turn everything through. So for tonight, we're doing a round version, which is envelope only. So we are using quilting cotton on ours. That's what I use for all my mug rugs. And I just realized as I sat down here, I forgot to cut batting for the mug rug because I had to go dig through, and there's Gus in the way. I had to go dig through a bunch of stuff just to find some fabric. I had to dig into my scrap pile since all my fabric is still currently in boxes. So it looks like my batting is too, but I do have some fleece I can get away with here. So I'm just going to cut that real quick. Done. All right. So we need quilting cotton and batting, foam, or fleece. Anything basically to kind of give you some loft in between the layers. So what you'll see is it kind of in between the stitching, I can tell on camera, get a little dimension here on the mug rugs. That's why we quilt a lot of them. You get that quilting effect on it so you can see some of those kind of loft in the mug rug itself. So again, don't be too picky about what materials you're using for the batting because honestly, there's so many options that you have. So I call for batting usually, but if you don't have batting, grab some fleece. I'm using some fusible fleece tonight because that's what I have handy and out. My batting's in a box somewhere. But I've also used foam, like not the foam that you use for puff designs, but foam like sewing stabilizer foam. And Gus is trying to eat a box. Gus, you're not helping. Go away. So don't worry if you don't exactly have batting. You have lots of things that you can put in substitution of batting without any problems with these. Where did? Oh, hi, Nancy. Well, the tournament, unfortunately, we lost in the first round, so which was disappointing. It's the first game we lost all year, but it was a good game, and it also meant we got to get home earlier. I think it's probably better losing the first game than the second game. A little less heartbreaking, but it was a good day. They had a good game. Hi, Merle. All right, so I've got the design loaded up in my hoop. What I will say with quilting cotton is I like to fuse some woven interfacing to the back to kind of give it a little bit of dimension. I know I talked a little bit on our freestanding week when I'm doing it in quilting cotton. I like to make sure that it's going to hold up to the stitches and not pucker. So this is Pylon Shape Flex 101. I fused to the back of the quilting cotton to give it a little more structure. And with the envelope pieces, we want to make sure that our two pieces for the back are a little bigger than our design. And I'm going to take one short raw edge and I'm going to fold it under like that. Doesn't be perfect, but this is going to be our back. When we lay it down, we're going to end up overlapping them. So you want to make sure that you have no raw edges. So just take those short edges and just press them under just a little bit. All right. So that's pretty much the setup for it. They're honestly pretty easy once you've done a few. They just kind of seem counterintuitive for a second. So our first step, like anything we've done so far, except for freestanding, is going to be placement right on our stabilizer. I have cutaway hooped, as this is an applique design. But again, if this is a not quite as dense design, you can go with tearaway as well too. but I use cutaway for most of what I do. My comments are just sitting here again. There they are. So first step, right on stabilizer. And I'm going to use fabric for the applique pieces tonight. So because I'm using fabric's a little harder to work with for appliques than vinyl is. And luckily, I had this sitting in my scrap bin too. It actually matches what I'm working with. I have fused to the back of this. It's kind of shiny. I have heat and bond on the back of this. And what that's going to do, if you can see where I've cut it here so far, little pieces, it stops that fraying and it makes it easier to cut when you're doing appliques with fabric. So I do like that product. You're going to apply that before you even get to the applique piece. I don't know where my actual heat and bond roll is in a box. So, but I know I think it's heat and bond light is what I have in the back of that. Just something to give a little structure, keep it from fraying as you're cutting. It'll make your life much easier. All right. So next step is going to be our batting, and we're going to put that down in place, and we're just going to tack that down. And I'm going to get by with using the same green for our entire design, which will be nice. I won't have to switch threads on this. And I'm doing the 6x6 size on this one, a little bigger than the 5x7. So it might take my machine a little longer to stitch than yours if you're doing the 5x5 version. Merle, this is our mug rug design for this week for the Skill Builder. Officially, as of this week, our plumbing repairs are done. If anyone's been following along my basement drama, they ripped up a lot of the floor in my basement. That was super fun. Gus loved the jackhammering. But supposedly it's all done and fixed. So now we just got to go on to flooring at some point once we get that sorted. All right. So our next step, this is going to be our front piece of fabric. So I just cut a little bigger than the size of our design. So this is 6x6. So I'm going to make sure that I have at least an inch around every size of this. So I'm going to make sure that the square that I'm using is at least, I would say, like 8x8 to give us plenty of space. I always kind of err on the side of being much bigger than I need, because I hate when I get too close. In fact, I may have cut my back pieces right on the cusp of what I'm comfortable with. We'll find out when we get there. But just make sure that your fabric is covering all your placement lines, so you're not going to have any raw edges peeking on you. And the next step is going to be our quilting step, which is going to just kind of tack down our fabric and just give us that nice kind of quilted look that mug rugs often have. Since this design it covers a lot of it, but we don't want it puckering. So quilting is going to help keep that together and keep those layers from shifting. And I like to do the quilting in the same color thread as the fabric because I want it to be subtle. But if you like contrasting, you can do it in whatever color you want. If you're doing on a lighter fabric and you want a darker quilting, that's totally up to you. But I prefer to have it kind of blend in. I'm so lucky I have these fabrics sitting in, I have a giant, huge tub of scrap fabrics that I keep for a year or so, and I donate the rest to my son's art teacher at his school. They have a little fashion design program. He always asks for scraps. So I save them up for a while when it gets overwhelming and I donate there. But I had a bunch sitting in there. And luckily I had this because the rest of my fabric is all packed up in a bin. So luckily I didn't have to go sorting through boxes tonight. I was able to pull these out. Hopefully within a couple weeks, I'll have the flooring situated and you guys can quit hearing my basement drama. All right, so our quilting is done. Our next step is going to be our placement for our applique piece. So, and hopefully, and if your eyes are kind of old like mine, this does get easier if you do use a contrasting color for the applique step, just so you can see it and see where you're placing. I have this giant piece here. I'm going to make this work because I don't think it's going to be big to set up the entire thing. So I may have to kind of cut it in pieces and go little by little. We shall see here. So I may have to pause, but normally I would just cut up a bigger piece and lay it over everything and then just trim around the whole thing for my appliques. But tonight, it's also going to be scraps too. If you got a bunch of small pieces, you can save them and put them appliques. Just kind of the route I'm taking tonight with this scrap I have here. I'll kind of know what size to cut my applique pieces out of this scrap once I see it all stitched out. Okay, so we're on to the biggest applique placement here. And this is why I trusted my eyes too much, because I was hoping that, oh, I'll be able to see it. It's bright enough. All right. So let's see what we got working with here. So I'm going to have to cut my piece into several smaller pieces and stop the machine. So my one placement's here. I think I can get, yeah, I can get two pieces over this. And I'm going to kind of trim, I think, as I go on this one, since I don't think my piece here I have is big enough to cover all of my applique. Oh, maybe it is. No, oh, maybe it is. And I'll get lucky here. Oops, sorry, just bumped the camera. Oh yeah, I'm good. All right, so normally that's what I would do, is just take one big piece and lay it over and cover all my placement stitches. But if you have smaller pieces, you can just kind of stop and go as you're going. If you wanted to do the little toe beans and different fabrics, you could do that. Just kind of what you would do is, after this first one's done stitching, just pause it, stop the machine before it gets to the next little toe bean, like here. Just stop it. And then you would lay your next piece down, and then so on and so forth as you work around until you get all the fabrics tacked down that you're going to want to use. But I'm just going to use the one sheet. It's going to make our life way easier. I realize this piece is a little creased. I'm sitting in my scrap basket. So I'm going to make sure it's not going to flip up for me. Let's see what do we have. Let's see, what do we have next week? We have notebook covers next week. Is that right? I'm going to check real quick. I feel like next week we have notebook covers. Yep, next week is notebook covers. So we switching back to vinyl next week. Those that prefer vinyl projects. But mug rugs are fun for the holidays because they're really good gifts for people. Teachers or just whatever. They're nice little stock. You can put them in there, put some candies in there, a gift card, coffee mug. They make really cute gifts for the holidays. It's like a nice little combination between a placemat and a coaster. So I think they're super cute to give out for the holidays. All right, so now we've got all of our fabric tacked down. So we need to trim. So far when I've done appliques for the skid loaders, I've used vinyl, and vinyl is much more forgiving for appliques because if you accidentally trim and to stitch a little bit, typically the vinyl won't pull back on you and you'll be kind of covered. Fabric, you do have to be more careful with. I'm going to try and cut as much as I can on camera because if you do cut those stitches as you're trimming, then you're way more likely to have that pull away, and we don't want that. So I'm going to do kind of a rough cut here, what I can do on camera, but I'm going to have to pull away and clean that up off camera. Get this excess out of the way here. Again, it's a little harder to do sitting in your machine bed. I much prefer to do this at a table where I can see a little better. I also like to kind of get a rough cut around first, all those little pieces. It'll just make it easier to trim when they're not together. So again, I'm kind of cutting in between the pieces, not really close yet, just to get them all separated so I can kind of help pull that fabric up as I actually am trimming neatly, just to make it easier to work with. If you are that good that you can cut accurately and closely, well, you still got one piece, do you? Go for it. But I'm not that talented, so this is what works for me. Gotta stop. My dog's down here. He keeps trying to lick at little pieces of fabric on the ground. It's making me crazy. All right, so I've got these all separated out where each piece is all separate from the other. And now it's going to make it easier for me to go in and get as close as I can without trimming any of those stitches. We don't want to trim any of our stitches or cut any of our stitches. That would be bad. Again, that's going to cause fraying and for the fabric to pull away. So it does require a little more care to cut fabric pieces than it does vinyl pieces because fabric is not as forgiving. But that heat and bond does make it a little bit easier. And it's kind of slow going here in the machine bed, but we're going to do what we can here on camera, and then I'll have to move over and trim it up so I can see what I'm doing and I don't have to fight with the machine arm here as I'm turning. Because I don't want to move you back and forth from machine to the table more than necessary because it's kind of awkward when I do that. I'm not very fluid at not making people seasick as I'm moving the camera back and forth. It's kind of slow going because we got 5 little pieces to cut out here. In my applique technique here, I like to cut towards my non-dominant hand as I'm going, trying to get it closer that way than if I were to cut it like paper and just kind of go this way. But again, this is all harder on the machine bend than it needs to be if I were to go to the table. Being super careful not to snip any of those stitches. Guys, stop. There are fewer sounds that make me crazier than a dog licking nonstop. And that's what he's doing to, like, I don't know, a scrap of cardboard or something he found over there. And it's driving me bananas. Again, I'm going to have to pull this off and go into my lap so I can see what I'm doing better. It's a little difficult there on the machine, but I can't really get in there and see. I've got as close as I can. From there, But again, this is probably, I think we did our appliques earlier on in the skill builder, and there were fewer applique pieces. So then there are right on this piece, since there's 5 we have to cut out. It does take a little bit longer. Like I said, fabric, excuse me, fabric just requires a little more care than vinyl. You still want to get in there and get close, but you need to make sure that you don't trim any of those stitches on accident. So I'm just snipping away off camera so I can see what I'm doing. This is probably a more boring live too, because it's going to be a lot of trimming and then a lot of stitching and not as many directions, since there's only actually a few steps on these mug rugs. So I'm sorry, this is the boring part here. But take your time trimming it out. You don't want to end up rushing it, going too fast, and then trimming. And if you were to accidentally trim into your stitches, I would recommend cutting out another piece of fabric and just honestly tacking it right on top of that, and then just running it again. Because chances are, if you've nicked into your stitches at all, it's going to end up pulling on you. And then you'll have a gap where it's pulled away from the design. And I'm just going through now. I've got most of it done here. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to clean up some of those pieces, just so I can make sure that I'm nice and close, so that our satin covers all that excess there on the side. Honestly, it's better to kind of err on the side of being a little farther away if you're worried about it than trimming too close. The satin should be wide enough to give you a nice little buffer too, a little bit if you haven't got as close as some areas, but I like to be as close as I can to make sure. All right, I've got one little bit I want to trim up here on the foot pad here. All right, I am pretty confident about that I got close enough here. Let me get this all little pieces knocked off, and here we go. All right, so here's where we're at now. Let me pop this back on. Got as close as I could without hitting any of my stitches. Like I said, if you were to accidentally snip one of your stitches, don't fret. Honestly, start over with just that piece, back your machine up, and just tack another piece on top. You're not going to notice that there's 2 layers of fabric over it. You're really not. But it's better to do that and save it versus getting to the point that you've stitched out your entire set and then you see that fabric lifting and pulling away from your design in the applique. Trust me, I've been there. I've made that mistake, and I've assumed, oh, it's fine. It's close enough. It's going to get covered, and then it doesn't, and then I regret not going back and just adding another piece of fabric down to make sure. So don't fret if you do stitch into it. Just cut in a piece and lay it over. All right, so now in the longest part of the design, this is going to 13-minute stitch out, and this is for the satin. So this will be the longest time of just watching the machine go for 17 minutes. Oh, I love that, Nancy. Sorry, I'm just seeing your comment pop up. That's a perfect gift idea. And hi, Betty. I'm always forgetful, Betty. It's fine. You're here now. Gus. And I have used vinyl for applique pieces on mug rugs before. You can use vinyl on them as well. Just know that you don't want to press your vinyl directly with a hot iron. But you could use vinyl on the applique pieces too. I kind of prefer fabric appliques on the mug rugs. I don't know. It feels more like, I don't know, cozy to me. I don't know. Does that make sense? That's just my preference, but there's no reason that you cannot add vinyl to appliques in the mug rugs. I'm trying to see if I have any out. I've got a stack of mug rugs over here in the corner. Aha, I have one. So this is one from last year, and this is actually vinyl on this one. So you can use vinyl for the applique pieces too. Um, but usually, depending on the design, I prefer fabric for the appliques, but that's just a personal preference thing. Just know that when you're pressing this flat later, don't ever hit your vinyl with a hot iron because it will melt and then you'll be really sad. Oh, yeah, it'd be a good thing too for a vet. I should give this to my vet's office. I love my vets. You are not upping the machine speed on me, Steph. We're fine. We're going to get there together. It's okay that it's slow. I'm slow too. It's fine. All my testers give me grief about the machine speed that I use. But I don't know. I think it stitches better. I need to go back and do I had two patches I stitched out a while ago, especially on satins. That like fast speed, it just doesn't, sometimes it skips stitches and whatnot. So I've done this with all my machines. So I always stitch slow. I like to stitch slow. It's fine. I may step, because this is a long step, I may speed it up a little tiny bit, but I'm not going to go crazy. Actually, you know what? I'll do that. I will. So I have this down to 400 now, and I'm going to crank my machine speed up and see if we can tell the difference between the satins. I bet you we will. But for Steph's sake, so she'll quit making fun of me. Once it stitches out this other one, I'll speed up. Because it does take a minute on the satins. I've done it before, Steph, usually just to prove a point, like this. I think I did it once to get Kelly off my back too. And I was like, see, look, it just looks better when it's stitching slower. So fast you go, it's more friction. More friction is more heat, more thread breaks, more skip stitches. Obviously, the same isn't true for if you have like a multi-needle that's meant for like production stitching that you're stitching a lot on all the time. Those are more designed for that than like your single needle domestic home-based machines. All right, but I'm going to pause this and I am going to crank up the speed a little bit. All right now I'm on 400. So we've stitched two little toe beans out. I'm going to crank it up. Oh my God, this makes me so anxious to go to 1,000. Oh, I can't do that. I'll go to 800. I'll double the speed here. All right. And it's going to make me so anxious to watch this. See, look how fast. That's too fast. It's entirely too fast stuff. And I still could turn it up faster, but I don't think I can do it. I don't have it in me. My heart can't take it. It still kind of naturally slows down a little bit on the satins anyway. So I'm curious what speed we're actually stitching at. It's faster than it was before, but I guarantee it's not going the whole 850. It's faster. I'm being chill about it. I know, Nancy, it makes me nervous. This is probably only the second time on this machine that it's done this fast, but I've turned it up this fast. All right. After this little toe beat, I'll crank it up the rest of the way for this last toe beat. I already see where it's not as smooth though. I'll show you. I'll zoom in later when we get there. I already see where it's not as smooth of stitching. All right. I'm going to go to the max. Lord help me. All right. Yeah. We're going to the max. This is 1,000. I don't think I've ever turned it up this high. But you know what? I see a little area, I think right there, that I didn't trim as closely as I maybe should have. So I'm going to go in real quick and I'm just going to trim this right here just to make sure that it all gets covered. All right, there's me being paranoid. It's fine. Thank you, Nancy. This is the fastest it'll go. It's 1,050 is the highest. Highest. I caved to peer pressure though. But I can see on the one we just did, there's a couple spots that aren't as fluid. We'll see what it does in 1,000 speed. But I know that's not stitching 1,000. So machines will naturally kind of slow down on satins like this in some spots. Which is what's happening now. So I'm not really sure what speed it's going at, but it's way faster than my usual 400. Probably somewhere between 400 and 1,000, if I were to guess. But I'm not seeing a difference between the 850 and the 1,000, or the 800 and the 1,050. But I do see the difference between the first two I stitched. All right, so now we do the big piece. I think this is where we'll really see some of the differences in the stitching speed on this big piece. We'll find out. It's a science experiment. And I don't think the speed makes as much of a difference when you're just doing runs, but I think it makes a big difference on satins like this that are on the outside appliques and fills. I need to go back and find the patches that I did at the two different speeds. All right, we're like third of the way there on that one. And then we can quit staring at the machine for, probably been watching this paw print stitch out now for probably 8 minutes. So next week is notebook covers, which I'm not gonna lie, notebook covers are not hard, but they're probably my least favorite thing to stitch. They're just kind of persnickety. They're not difficult at all, but I feel like it's the one thing that if something can mess up on, it's going to be a notebook cover in terms of like pieces shifting. But that's just my personal thing. They're not difficult to do. They're just kind of annoying to do, if that makes sense. And I need to make sure, crap. Oh, there's my elastic. I'm looking over my corner at like stacks of boxes to make sure I can find my fold over elastic for next week. And it's looking at me. It's sitting on the ground in a stack of stuff. So we're good. I don't have to go dig into your boxes to find elastic. And hopefully by the time that we're done with our skill builder this time, my basement will be done. Now that the plumbing stuff is done, we can go on to all new flooring and fixing the wall, which would be great when I'm not living out of boxes down here. And I had my bestie Amy over at Off With Their Threads. Like there was a couple designs that like I needed to have tested and didn't have the right color fabric for what I had in my head. So she was a gem and ran those for me last week, just so I can get those up and out to you guys, since I couldn't find the fabric that I needed for those designs. Because I had a very specific idea of what I wanted to use. All right. So on our very last step here, we've made it this far. I am going to turn my speed down. There's no way I can stitch that fast on this last piece. I would go crazy. All right. So I have my 2 pieces of fabric here. All right. So these are going to go right side down. So one piece is going to go. I hope I didn't trim these too small. I'll cry. It's possible that I trimmed these too small. I don't think I did, but I feel like maybe I did. So I like to put, so make sure that you have that raw edge that you folded under. Kind of put that just a little higher than the center of your mug rug. In fact, if you need to make it easier, I'm gonna stitch this. I'm gonna stitch the very first step out again because I can't see. And I cut my fabric so close on these pieces. I want to make sure that the pieces that I cut are going to fit. And so I'm going to run that very first step again, just so I have a visual to make sure where to place my fabric pieces. If I'd cut my pieces bigger like I should have, I wouldn't have to be doing this, but here we are. I just want to make sure it's all going to fit on there. I'm not going to have to rip any stitches out and then add a backing again later, which I've done before. And sometimes I have to throw it on my sewing machine because I've trimmed my pieces too small. All right, so now I can see what I'm working with here. So I'm going to turn the first step again so I could see better. I'm going to now go back to the last step. All right, last step. So take one of your short folded edges and kind of place that just a little higher than the center of your design. It doesn't need to be perfect. Like, don't worry about actually busting out the measuring tape and all that. Just kind of get it where it's just a little higher than the center of your design. And then take your second piece and you're going to place that. And actually, my piece is plenty wide enough. I'm glad I did that. Now I won't be anxious about it. Just kind of overlap these and take the second piece and just lay it so there's a little bit of an overlap. Again, it doesn't be precise, just enough. Basically, you get a little pocket in the back. So again, you want these to be roughly center overlapped on the back. With your right side down, these will end up being turned through this. Again, just making sure I'm lining up that all of my placement stitches are being covered. So that way I'm not going to have any surprises when I go and turn this. So the one thing you have to watch out for with these mug rugs is sometimes the way these will go up as it's stitching, sometimes your presser foot will hit this and kind of shift it. So I like to get my little purple thing here and just kind of keep an eye on it as I'm going. And if I need to, I will stop it and adjust. So we're going this way first. Let's forget which direction it's going. So I'm going to watch this side. Oh, and my thread is breaking. Look at that. See? My thread is starting to shred on me. Don't like that at all. So I'm going to rethread this. I guarantee I was going so fast before. It's all Steph's fault. All right. So I'm going to cut that real quick. And then I'm going to back that up. And it's starting to fray on me. All right. And then I will just back this up a little bit. Rethread this. It's always something machines, isn't it? I swear. I love them, but it's always something. All right. So let's back this up a little bit. And go back to a little past where I saw it fraying. And we're going to do it again. So again, I'm just going to watch this edge. I don't want this to be kicked up by the presser foot when I go. So as it gets close, I'm just going to keep that pushed down. I'll keep my fingernail near that stop button. You can also raise your presser foot height too. You can also take another piece of tearaway stabilizer and lay it over the whole back so you don't have to worry about the lips getting caught. But this is just how I do it. I just kind of watch it. So if I need to, I'll stop it. Oop, I didn't mean to stop it like that. My elbow hit the screen. If I need to, I'll stop it. But again, you can just lay like a piece of tearaway over it. You could even kind of tape this on the side. I just use my little purple thing here and just push it down and keep my eye on this. See how it's starting to bunch right here? Do you see that? It didn't catch, but if I were to keep going, there's a good chance that it would keep going this way and kind of pull and shift. But I caught it real quick, so all I have to do is put my foot up, slide that underneath, put the foot back down, and we're good to go. And I'll do the same thing when it comes around on this side here. And again, if you don't want to mess with it, and I cut this way, I did not have my center line where the actual center is, but it's fine. I'm a little low on my center there. But again, it doesn't really matter. All right, again, I'm watching this. Am I going to kick it up there? Or is it going to go smoothly under it? We're going to go right underneath it, no problem. So we're good. I didn't have it nearly as centered as I thought I did. We're not quite centered. It's fine. All right, so we are done on the hoop. So now I'm going to move the camera over. Did not set this up beforehand. I'm going to move the camera over here to my table, and then we're going to trim it out and turn it. So if you get seasick or whatever, look away. If you see boxes hanging in a corner in my disaster basement, look away. But we're going to go here, and I'm going to try and get you in the little overhead. This way I forgot. Facebook doesn't like landscape mode. So I got you here. Sorry. Don't get seasick. I'm going to bring this over so I'm a little more level. And there we are. All right, we're here. Zoom in just a little bit, maybe, if it'll let me. No, it won't let me. All right. So we're at the table. We're going to trim this guy out and turn it. And all will be right with the world. So here I am. Got this here. Go ahead and pop this out of your hoop. Here we are. All right, and now we're just going to trim. So go ahead and trim it all through all your layers. Nice sharp scissors. Just get about a 1/4 inch or so away from your stitching. You don't want to cut into your stitching. Get your iron heated up or your heat press. I will use the heat press on this. Which, let me see if I can get it heated up fast enough while I'm trimming to do it tonight. My heat press turns itself off, which is nice, but it starts beeping like crazy before it does, and so I turned it off after I interfaced these fabrics earlier and forgot to turn it back on. So we do want to make sure that we give this a good press when we're done so it lays nice and flat. All right, so we're here. All my fabric cut out. And we are to the point in time. And we're just going to turn this. So just reach in and just pull it through. this hole that you left back here. Just turn it all through. Depending on the size that you did and the materials you use, if you're using batting, it may take you a little bit of finessing to kind of coax it. Don't pull too hard because you don't want to pull open these seams as you turn because they will rip. So, I mean, don't be afraid to mayhew a little bit, but just be really careful on those sides as you're turning it because you don't want to rip those seams out. Then you'll have a little tear on the back of your mug rug. So here I am here. I'm going to get my little, where's my tools? My little tools. So you can even use a knitting needle, like the blunt side of it, kind of blunt object to kind of go around and just push out on the inside here. Don't use a sharp object. So if you're using a knitting needle, make sure that it's nice and blunt because you will, if you put too much pressure, you will poke through your stitches. Ask me how I know. But again, just work it around, push it through. You can use your fingers too, but I find the little tool helps a little bit. Just go all the way around. Oop, got a little bit up here that wants to be difficult. All right, so here is the front. I also like to kind of just roll the seams a little with my fingers to kind of get a nice and crisp too on areas that they want to maybe pucker over a little bit. So here's this guy. Again, we've got back here, flatten it out here, and this is where you would give it a good hit with your iron. I'm going to see how hot my heat press is. 270. All right, we're going to see if that works. If that's hot enough, I'm just going to give it 30 seconds to kind of press in there. You can close your back hole. Oh, that sounded bad, didn't it? Your turning hole, rather. You can either glue it, you can hand stitch it. There's something called, what's this even called? Fuse tape. I'm not sure. I forget the name of this. Look it up again. This is great. It's fusible on both sides. So you could just cut a little snippet of that. And I'll show you when that comes out of there. And then iron that, and that's going to seal that for you as well if you don't want to glue or hand stitch. Then here we are. You're nice and flat now. So again, I can just take this and just cut a piece a little bit shorter there than what I am. I would just cut this and just slide this in there. And I'll pop it back in my heat press again. Just get it down there like that. And then just hit it with an iron. Again, you can hand stitch it. You can glue it. You don't have to do it this way, but I've had the same roll for years. You use so little of this. But I'll look at the exact name. Hem tape maybe is the name for it. I've seen it. It's usually in like the Notion section, which sadly with Joann's being gone now, it's kind of hard to find stuff, but I'm sure Amazon has that as well. I'll find a link. Wonderweb. Yes, it's like Wonderweb. All right, we're fusing that down, and then we're going to be all done with it. Mug rugs are, honestly, they're super quick and easy. They just more parts. So here we are. And I am, oh, it's hot. Imagine that. Out of my heat press, it's hot. All right, cool down so I can show that it's fused. I always do that. I pull out the heat press and I go, oh my gosh, it's so hot. Like, this is a surprise to me. All right. So here we are. And we are, see that? We're nice and sealed shut. That's it. This is our 6x6 size. It's kind of tiny in this. It's nice, a nice large coaster. Like if you had like a large mug or a soup mug, it's a perfect size for that too. I have this up to at least 8x8. So, which is a good size on that. I think I have, boop, 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 boop. This is, I don't have a round one stitched out, but I do have a hexagon. And this, I think, what is this? This would be the 8x8. Imagine that was a circle. So much larger size for that. This is our 6-inch size. So it's a nice little size, bigger than a coaster. Like I said, it'd be nice for a big soup mug, bowl. But yeah, muggers are super fun. They make great gifts for the holidays. So hopefully that was helpful to everybody. Steam-a-seam, that's it. You got it, Nancy. That's what I'm talking about. Steam-a-seam, she's got me. And then Nancy, I kind of want to gift this to my vet's office. Yeah, perfect with that. Like, and just do like little treats or something, maybe a gift card in there, like a gift card with it from my vet's office. Lord knows that Gus has left there enough. So they deserve a little treat. But yeah, so next week we will do notebook covers. I'll have the design out to you guys this week. As far as I know, we'll be scheduling it again for Sunday evening, which I'll get that up and scheduled by midweek. But unless anything goes up, it should be the same time, same place as usual. And thanks for joining me. And I hope everyone has a fantastic week. And I can't wait to see your muggers. Oh, I wanted to show you. Can you see on here? This is where it was going really fast. I don't know if you can tell on camera. Do you see here where some of the stitches kind of just look a little rougher? But like you come over to here with where it was slower, it's a little smoother. So there's my little quick science, especially the 850 actually looks the roughest kind of in there. Maybe I'm being picky, but that's me. I do like the slower speed. So that was for science. Again, there isn't a huge difference, but it's enough that it bothers me because I'm weird like that. But yeah, so I will see everyone next week for notebooks. And that's all I got. So peace out, everyone. Happy Sunday.